Welcome to Attractions Direct, your source for Disney, SeaWorld, and Universal news and history. This week, Shanghai Disneyland opened its gates, so we are going to be taking a look at how it is operating now. We also have some other Disney news too. But just quickly before this video gets started, I wanted to do some shameless self-promotion here and tell you guys that I made a personal channel. It is called Josh and Stuff. I play all sorts of games, so just have a fun time over there. The link to that channel will be in the description down below. Okay, now on to the video. As many of you know, and we covered it last week, Shanghai Disneyland reopened after COVID-19 on May 11th, 2020. With this, we saw the safety in the parks, despite us getting a message from the Disney Parks Chief Medical Officer last week. We covered that in our last video entitled Disney Spring Reopening, if you haven't checked that out. It was interesting to truly see how they're going to be handling social distancing now that we have an open park. But without further ado, let's get right on into it. Now, let's talk about what you need to know before you go. Now, China's borders are still closed to tourists, so no international tourists to Shanghai Disneyland yet. But if you're in China already, then first you'll need to select which day you're coming in advance. In other words, you can only come on a specific date that you select. This is to limit the amount of guests in the park, which has been limited to 1/3 of its max capacity, roughly 24,000 people. Now, make sure you bring a mask, as masks are being mandated in the parks for everyone. But in order to actually get into the parks, guests must show a green health code on their phones to show that they are healthy and free of the virus. Then they must pass through a temperature check to ensure they are not running a temperature. But that's just getting into the park. There is still plenty to talk about in the park. Now, for social distancing. When I was watching a video of Inside Shanghai Disneyland, I saw what looked to be designated standing spots around the castle. I'm assuming this since there were yellow squares on the ground and they looked to be roughly 6 feet apart. So it looked to me like a social distancing measure. What you can see on the screen, the squares aren't 6 feet apart, but in another image I found, they did look to be. So, I don't know. But I also saw many customers holding signs saying to stay 6 feet apart, and I even heard a customer telling some guests over by the castle something along the lines of, "Please keep a safe distance, everyone." So they are clearly concerned about social distancing. But what about when you meet a character? People love to hug and take a selfie with characters. But you have to get in close proximity with a character when you do these things. Which means, when you visit Shanghai Disneyland, you are unable to hug characters and take selfies with them. This way, keeping the character performers safe, while I'm sure they also maintain social distancing within the meet and greet. But what about shows? Disney is known for their stunning fireworks shows, and their other brilliant stage shows. Are they still operating? Currently, many shows are still closed. This is a phased reopening after all, so shows must not have been in this phase. However, it does make sense. I mean, you do have to get close to other people when you're watching a show. But what about the fireworks? You don't need to get too close to people watching a fireworks show, but alas, at this time the fireworks are not showing. This one honestly surprised me a little bit, since I thought they did have social distancing squares by the castle, but I also understand why they wouldn't have fireworks operating, since people would probably get excited and maybe stand too close to others, so it makes sense. But on the bright side, many attractions, like rides, are still operating, so there's still plenty to do. Now, last but not least, when we got that message from the Chief Medical Officer at Disney Parks, she said they were had added many hand sanitizing locations around the resorts. The Senior Vice President of Operations at Shanghai Disneyland said in an interview that they have added hand sanitizing stations at places like the ends of attractions, gift shops, and restaurants. So clearly in high busy areas like rides and gift shops, and places where you need to keep your hands clean like restaurants, it is available. This is obviously a good thing, but yeah, it's nice that Disney's taking the steps. But in other Disney news, Disney is hosting a Halfway to Halloween event to celebrate how we're almost halfway to Halloween. You can check this out on the Disney Parks blog site. It includes some new merchandise, some spooky recipes, and more cool things. They even posted some spooky Halloween photos from around the world in their parks. A few of which you can see on your screen right now. These are just my favorites. There are so many more that I didn't include into the video. All in all, really worth checking out. There's also now a Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway Adventure Kit on Disney Now, inspired by the attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios. According to the Disney Parks blog site, I quote, "Control Mickey and Minnie's friends, cars, trains, and more. through a series of scenic adventures in this delightfully surprising off-the-rails sandbox game. So it sounds pretty cool. To my knowledge, I still can't get friggin' Disney Now in Canada, gosh darn it. Now that's all the information I could find. I'm super happy Shanghai has opened up, and I hope it will continue to stay open. Disney Springs is opening up on Wednesday, May 20th, so we'll be taking a look at their social distancing measures next week. All in all, this all looks really good, and it shows Disney's putting guests and cast safety over all else. And besides, as covered in last week's video, Disney lost $1 billion. However, I know it sounds like a lot, they did earn $12 billion, so I think they'll be mostly fine. Anyway, be sure to give us a follow on Twitter, @AttractionsDNews, and please tag us if you're getting up to anything fun at home that's theme parks related. If you haven't, check out our last video from Monday. It has all sorts of cool tips on how to bring the magic to your own home. Anyway, that's all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the channel for more. And we'll see you in the parks.